morning. Y'all want to get started? Thank you all for being here. I'm Christy Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of the Texas Judicial Commission on Mental Health. All right, let's get settled and get started, everyone. We want to use your time valuably. We really appreciate you being here. I know that probably almost all of you participated in the SIM mapping just a month or two ago. So we are very aware of that, and we don't want to overload you. Today we're gathering the stakeholders that work in mental health, law enforcement, judges, attorneys, to talk about how to work together better. That when we have people with mental illness, they often cross into our criminal justice system. And there are different opportunities to divert them away from jail if we can do it safely and protect the community. So working together helps create new opportunities. We sometimes find that the left hand isn't talking to the right hand. That even though we think that we're all working together, some of these laws can be really complicated and tedious, and we need to have it written down so that when someone new comes into the community, that it is easy to find and easy to follow.
So this started about a year and a half ago, that just saw a need that we have people that are being put in jail, usually criminal trespass, criminal mischief, low-level misdemeanor crimes. They're sitting in jail. They're not competent, so they can't go to trial. The attorneys can't work anything out for them, so they just sit in jail till the 180 days runs, and then they were getting kicked back out in the street, and then they're right back again. So we're trying to get something started to provide some mental health services for these people. In the end, it's going to save money for the county and actually serve these people.
So what have you heard here this morning that's been important to you?
Pretty much all of it. In between, during the break, I did find out, because I asked before about the LMHA, our local mental health authority, providing people to come actually out to the jail to visit with these people, and they got a grant and they're going to do it.
Our thought is that we're going to help you check off some of the things on your to-do list from the SIM mapping. Instead of adding more to it, we've got an advanced copy of your SIM map report, and I think your committee that helped plan it has that report and is reviewing it, and then it will be out to everyone. But y'all, it's awesome. We're good friends with the HHSC people, and it helped set us up for the good work that you already did. And I think what we're going to do today is just drill down a little bit more on the legal processes. What we found is that the SIM mappings usually focus on developing the resources, which we need first. So it makes sense for that to come first. And then this is an opportunity to talk a little bit more about the legal processes in more detail. So I'm Christy Taylor. If I haven't met you, I'm the Executive Director of the Texas Judicial Commission on Mental Health.
And I'm Kayma Harris. I'm one of the staff attorneys with the Judicial Commission on Mental Health.
And you know, we know people learn differently. I love big picture. I need to know the why. I mean, I think we all need to know the why. But we also need the details, and Kayma's my detail person. So, you know, she's the one that makes these checklists and writes it all down for us. You should have one in front of you. If you don't, we have some more. So that you don't have to remember all the details. But we want to hear just real briefly from each of you to find out who's in the room. And do you want to start over here? And just tell us your name and who you're with.
Sally Reyes, and I'm with probation here, adult probation.
Good morning.
My name is Kathleen Romero, and I'm with the Sheriff's Office.
Amanda Romig, Hill Country Regional Public Defender's Office.
Todd Winslow, Adult Probation.
Jenna Hyder with Medina County Court of Law.
Isabel Rodriguez, Medina County Clerk.
Eva Rivera, Medina County Clerk.
Wait, say that again?
Eva Rivera, Medina County Clerk.
Eva Rivera.
Okay, you're both at the county clerk.
Yes.
Great, thank you so much.
Chris Andrews, Divine Police Department.
Hello.
Mark Ashton, County Court of Law in Medina County.
Mariah Valle, Medina County Sheriff's Office.
Tony Aguilar, Medina County Sheriff's Office.
Ruby Gaucini, Auditor's Office.
Are you sure?
She's good. She takes care of this. I'm Judge Bubba House, Justice Peace Precinct 3 here in Medina County.
Good morning.
Susie Hernandez with Medina County Jail.
Jessica Andrews, Medina County Jail, medical.
Welcome. Yay.
I'm Darcy Hasty with Pretrial Services here in Medina County, right here in the loud office.
I'm Carrie Raymond. I'm with Hill Country.
Sue Trevino, I'm clinic director here in Hondo.
That's your local mental health authority? Okay.
Hi, I'm Rose McBride. I'm the communications manager with the JCMH.
Okay, well, you have a lot of great people here today. And the big picture, I know you all know why we're doing this, that it helps people every day. Rose does a podcast for us. You haven't had a chance to tune into it. When I get hyped up for these things, like I'm getting dressed this morning, I'm re-listening to podcasts because y'all know this can be heavy work and that some days you're thinking, you know, we're climbing that mountain, we're climbing, are we ever going to get to the top or the other side? And she captures on the podcast people that are doing things that are working and how it's working. She tries to balance, of course we've got our big cities, but she tries to balance with more medium and rural counties. And just to hear that sometimes just a shift in thinking, collaboration, maybe it doesn't take a lot of money, or you know, you start those collaborations and then you learn to apply for some more money. I think it's very encouraging, and I highly recommend it. You can find it. It's called
Reimagining Justice, Exploring Texas Innovations in Mental Health. So it's under our website. So if you just type our name into Google, you'll find our website. It's under the news section. You can find it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
And if you want to be a guest on the podcast, then you know who to talk to. She makes it very easy. And so I want us to think positively. We all know the horror stories. We know what's going wrong. We know what's broken. But today we're here to gather and create something new and some positive results. So just to give you a minute about who we are, the highest two courts in Texas, the Court of Criminal Appeals and the Supreme Court, decided about 7 years ago that they wanted a group that would focus just on the judicial system and the problems that y'all face every day, the intersection of mental health, IDD, substance use, and our court system. So we decided it needed both our civil lawyers for all of our civil commitment, emergency detention, family law, and that we needed our criminal judges and lawyers involved, because often, you know, it crosses over into the criminal justice system. So they sat, this is a picture of them listening, all 18 of the two high courts. They don't really do a lot together. They're pretty separate in their work, and they sat and they listened, and we got people from the field coming in and telling them what it's like day to day. And it was eye-opening, you know, because they're at a level where they're hearing those appeals, and they don't get the facts anymore, right? They start to just answer these questions of law, and a lot of times it's theoretical, and it's, you know, it's not really where they get to hear what's happening in your world. And so it was a great experience, and then they unanimously voted to create our commission. And really, when I say the commission, we have two parts of it. We have a big group of people, that's about 50, that represent stakeholders like you. And you know, once we get to know all of you, it's a great opportunity to get involved. We have the commission itself that has 50 commissioners, and then we have a collaborative council who calls in and advises, and it also, you know, kind of gets your foot in the door to hear about funding opportunities. And if there's a new guide coming out, we just share everything that we get. Anything that's free, we push it out and try to help. So we have those commissioners that help us know what's going on, and it's very heavily judicial, but we have law enforcement, we have probation, we have public defenders, prosecutors. It tries, you know, we try to look like this room right now, and try to reach across Texas, but that's also hard with 254 counties. So the other part of it is we have a small staff that keeps it going. So I know y'all probably have had this experience where you volunteered on a committee and everyone's super excited about it, and then nothing happens because you all have full-time jobs doing, you know, a lot. And let's be honest, we could all be getting paid more doing something else. We are doing this because we have the heart for this work and we know it matters. So I say the same about my staff. They could be making more in law firms, but they really care about this and are passionate. And so our full-time job is to support you all. I mean, that is what we love to do. So we write books, we write things like, this guide, and try to make it as easy as possible. We connect people. Like if you are a new public defender and you say, I would really like to see how another public defender's office does it in a different region, then that is a service that we do, is try to connect people. And then we have all sorts of recorded trainings. So I know some of y'all got to listen to the classes that we did beforehand, but if you didn't get a chance to, they are recorded. They're on our website. We did one on civil commitment, one on early intervention, one on specialty courts, and one on competency restoration. And we brought in experts to talk about that. So these are just some pictures of our bench book, the two green books in the middle. They are about this thick. One is youth and one is adult. And we will mail those to you if you would like a copy. You got a copy if you came to our summit. And let's move on. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the problems because you guys are very well aware of the problems. What we have observed from our side, though, is that the mental health laws are complicated and they're spread out. They're in different code books. They affect different types of judges. They affect different stakeholders. And so before our commission started about 7 years ago, we hadn't seen a lot of people, maybe like a couple lawyers at HHSC, try to put that all together. And so we put it together in a code book that you can just flip through more easily. So again, if you want one of those, we can mail it to you. But the laws are complicated, and a lot of times we are in our silos and we have our judges or our attorneys, at the county attorney's office that are doing our civil commitment, and we have our DA doing our criminal, and they're not connecting very often. And what we're finding out is we want to all be connected. We want to be this united front. And this is where a smaller town has an advantage, that you all know each other more often. You get these big cities, they don't know who to call. And that is your strength to build on, is your relationships. And I know that you're already doing that every day. But we still think there could be some more coordination that happens. And we want to just start this day by saying we don't want to point the fingers at anyone. We don't want to blame. We know, again, that we all are doing this for the right reasons, and we're looking for those gaps so that we can talk about it and try to fix it. And some problems may be, long-term goals that aren't fixable today, and some might be immediate wins that we could pick up the phone, change a little bit of a process, and we can do immediately. So, are y'all all familiar with the sequential intercept model that's up here? It is what we base all of our work around. It's what your SIM mapping would be around. This is the SIM, the sequential intercept model, if you've heard that. So there's a national group that made a model. We did it a little differently and made it fit Texas a little bit better. It's also on the front of this checklist. But I think it's a great way to divide up our work, because if you sit down to talk and you've got the folks that are talking about what do you do when people come out of jail, and they're jumping in, and then you've got the folks talking about pretrial, and it's all jumbled, it can be really overwhelming. So we take it bite-sized pieces at a time. And I feel like the public health and the community services were something that you focused on in your SIM mapping. All right, now take a deep breath. This is when I say Kayla is my detail person. She made this chart for us. Just because it's a different way to look at it. It's basically the same information that's in this checklist in a visual way, if you want to see where they come in across that SIM. So those bubbles are all laws or best practices that can help us coordinate and move people through the system more efficiently. And we will send you these slides, and I know sometimes I like to take pictures anyway because I'm like, I don't want to wait for you, and I don't trust you that you're going to actually send me the slides. But we can send you all of this. So that is big picture. Yeah, and if you compare it to this is the final product that you're going to get, or at least a close to final product from HHSC doing your sim map. So if y'all can see, all of these bubbles represent resources that you have. And what we're hoping is that there are resources that you weren't utilizing, that you were forgetting, that maybe you didn't know about, and that when you come together, you can look at this and maybe even add another one and say, oh, actually, I just found out about something else for veterans. Or actually, good morning, just found out about something else in the jail. You know, I heard that y'all were getting new jail medical, and y'all seemed excited to meet Jessica today. So that is what is coming your way in the sim map. So the big 3 topics that we wanted to help with today, I think, are goals that you have identified when you did your sim mapping. Where do you want to go? Yeah, let's get over here. Okay, so one goal that I saw that you guys had under your sim mapping was to create regular meetings, like a behavioral health team. Let's see, who was in charge of that? Do y'all remember?
I don't know that we really put the things together, behavioral health team. I know that we talked about maybe getting together monthly to talk about, you know, any of our defendants that are, you know, in specialty court or working with us.
Which we were doing previously, we haven't done between the Sims map, the first meeting, and now, because we're kind of waiting to hear where we're at.
All right, so I have that Mariah Valle, Justin Souza, and Tony Aguilar are the team leads.
All right.
Yeah, for creating that.
This became official.
Yeah, and we recommend, and I think HHSC does too, 2 different types of meetings. So one meeting that you're talking about that is a monthly one, that may be this whole group, right, that is quarterly or monthly, you could. But that is not where you're talking about specific cases. That's where you're saying, look, we're seeing this a lot, that the emergency room is turning away people, and you're talking about big problems that are happening over and over, and you're trying to think about how the systems can work together better. And that we would call like the behavioral health leadership team. And we recommend at least quarterly, but you could meet more than that, especially when you're getting it started. You might want to meet more. And then the other type is a weekly case management meeting where you're drilling down to, we've got this guy in the jail, and you know, the LMHA has tried this, the DA's office has agreed to you know, some sort of bond if we get them connected to services, and you are planning for that case. And this team can also be used, I think it might often be the same team that looks at your wait list. So the LMHA, you know who's on your inpatient wait list, right? Do you know approximately how many on it right now?
Probably about 8 people.
8?
8 to 10 for the state hospital.
I didn't see that many, but I need to look again. Yeah.
Okay, and are you in the jail?
I work at the sheriff's office. I'm the one that sends in the admissions paperwork and gets them on the wait list.
So that many on 46Bs, are you saying?
They're all forensic.
Okay. So that team would sit down and look at those 8 people, 10 people, whatever's on the list, you know, at the time, and walk through them and brainstorm together and see, and you know, kind of go through your checklist and see, have we done everything that we can think of? And when you bring on new procedures, like I know y'all talked about in your sim map, trying out court-ordered medication. You know, that is something that a lot of communities are trying and they're having good luck with. And it is not to be taken lightly, you know, it's a big deal. But what we are hearing is that if you go through the process and get the paperwork, that a lot of people do not want to be restrained to have medication, and they will voluntarily take the medication. If they see that you have an order,
Right.
they'll go ahead and take it anyway. That's been y'all's experience too?
Yes, in other
Other counties?
Yes.
And so, you know, we hear all the time that, well, even if it just knocked 2 or 3 people, maybe that doesn't work for everybody, but maybe that works for 3 people off the list. You've just moved a third of your wait list. And if you think about the days that it costs in jail for them waiting for 2 years to get to the state hospital, that is where you start creating the savings, right, to do something like a diversion center or something that you're dreaming about. One of the podcasts, again, is Sergeant Sean Edwards in Burleson County, and he was a mental health officer. He built up his program to 3 mental health officers and I think a caseworker. When he showed the county, I think one year he was just having to like bust it and do it all himself, but then he showed the county it was working, and he built up his team, and he said they've saved $2 million in Burleson County just by doing that pretrial diversion, putting people out on bond, but having the mental health officers to do the follow-up so that the judges and the community and the DA felt comfortable that the person could go back out into and not be incarcerated. So, okay. Yeah, so what we're trying to do is write down your plans for you and be the one that kind of keeps the ball moving in that aspect. So, Kima, what are the things that we need to write down right now? What do y'all think would be a good plan for your big team meeting? Is it Deputy Aguilar?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, do you want to say quarterly to start with?
Quarterly.
Quarterly? Okay, so we'll say a quarterly team, and then you have 2 teammates that are on that goal. And apparently they say you signed up for this. I wasn't there.
I wasn't either.
We get voluntold a lot in this county.
Okay, well, I didn't mean to be the bearer of bad news. No, it's good news. It's good news. I know you're passionate about this. All right, well, what we have is, like I said, the report, the early copy of the report, and it just says team lead. So.
I believe you, man.
And this on here might be different than kind of what we're talking about. It's much broader, whereas kind of a judicial system meeting talks about like the plan, what's happening not only with, so emergency detention, there's hospital issue, well, what can we do systemically to change it? And so we recommend those meetings. I have Judge Cashin's name as team lead, so.
Oh, yeah.
I like
But does anybody meet do you guys need to talk about specific cases or the wait list?
We were doing meetings, and during those meetings, we would talk about specific cases sometimes.
And I will say, the district court does more with that.
Okay.
Because they have more cases.
Right.
Right.
That are on the competency or, yeah,
Right.
definitely. Okay.
Yeah, ours, I think we run in our court kind of 3 or 4, maybe 6 that are kind of regulars that keep coming back, that we're not fixing anything.
Well, like the district court has the specialty court,
Right.
whereas we do not.
Well, we could. And one thing to let Judge is it Kindred?
Yes.
Okay, to let him know is that he, right now, probably is just looking at his jurisdiction. His underlying jurisdiction are felonies. We actually have a legislative proposal right now in one of our work groups that is trying to make it clear that if you have felony jurisdiction, but you have a couple of serious misdemeanors that can't just be dismissed and sent back out, that you want to pull into that court, and you're not sure if you can do it because your jurisdiction's felony jurisdiction, we're trying to pass a bill that says you can, just for the purposes of that specialty court. And vice versa. Like, so if you started a misdemeanor court and that other court was full and you and the judge were working together and you were going to take some of the lower level felonies or something like that, then it would work both ways. So we'll see if that gets passed.
Are you saying right now they cannot do that?
Right now, it doesn't statutorily give them authorization to do it. There are ways by agreement.
Okay, so they could if they.
Yes, there are ways by agreement. One of our judges, it's retired Judge Brent Carr from Tarrant County, he has done this before, and he would work with y'all on specifically how to do that, like what agreements, and it would be better, right, if the statute said it so everybody felt more comfortable, but I definitely know judges that are doing it just by assigning.
And like administrative orders.
Administrative orders, that kind of thing, yeah.
Well, we
So-
talked about just doing, when he does the specialty court, what misdemeanors we have, just do a docket right after that, while everybody is still there, and I would come in and sit during that. Since I don't have jurisdiction over felonies, he doesn't have jurisdiction over the misdemeanors, but we could just kind of back to back it, because all the other players are there. But most of his are drug related. All of my drug cases, or 99% of them, are marijuana. I mean, it's just a different deal. But we have the people with mental health problems.
Yes. Okay, that's a great idea. Because even if you could hear felonies, y'all may want to keep it separate administratively. It may just be easier. So maybe just, we're going to write that down, just back to back. And a lot of times people think the specialty courts take a lot to get started. And, you know, of course, everything's better with more resources. But, you know, sometimes the LMHA is already working these cases anyway, and they appreciate the partnership with the judge to get that judicial authority to help enforce what they're trying to do. You know, to bring everybody together and make it more organized, and that's what we've seen. And so does Judge Lutz have the probate jurisdiction?
It's concurrent with mine. I do most of, he does probate once a month?
Twice a month.
Twice a month.
Okay.
But I have to do all the contesting stuff.
Okay, well that, who hears your emergency detentions, your JPs?
Yes.
Okay, and then do y'all hear orders of protective custody and the court ordered mental health services in county, or does that go out?
Kerrville. I think all that goes, I mean, that's the JPs will know that, I think, better than me. Or Tony will know.
Where does it go, Tony?
Yeah.
I know,
But because
JP's handle most of the emergencies.
Right.
all the JPs do here is, well, actually all the judges, is emergency detention warrants. No commitments, no OPCs, nothing else like that.
Okay.
Once they get to a hospital, say Kerrville or San Antonio, wherever they end up, after their minimum time, that court hears those. So these judges don't see that.
And is that working okay?
No.
Okay, all right, yeah. So let's talk about that, because we've heard this is, you wanna go to this chart? Yeah. Okay, so we did a roundtable just on emergency detention, so let's start talking about that. And what we found is, you know, everyone does it differently in Texas. In Travis County, they only do law enforcement. We call those the warrantless. The probate judge there is the head of all the probate judges in the state, and that's how he thinks it's done best, so that's how they do it. So then the law enforcement's comfortable with it, they do it 24/7, they feel like that works. Other counties, law enforcement's not comfortable doing it at all. So y'all seem fortunate that your law enforcement participates in the warrantless kind?
Yeah, okay. So when I went to school many years ago, we changed that because we were doing everything through MHDD. So we would go to our local hospital, get a medical clearance, could be 10 hours later, 36 hours later. Then, I mean, we were having to stay there at the hospital and then transport them to whatever hospital MHDD found a bed. Now, for the most part, we have gone away from that and done strictly emergency detentions, warrantless emergency detentions. But we go straight to San Antonio, do Laurel Ridge, Clarity, Methodist Specialty, or University Hospital, sometimes Baptist, depending on who has a bed, depending on the type of person that we're dealing with, how violent they are, will depend on kind of where we end up. Now, we have made some strides to work with MHDD here recently and try to get them more involved with our system. That has not worked, and even Chris Andrews is here. He actually did one the other day where they started at about 11 in the morning and didn't end until 5 in the afternoon. That's just waiting to figure out what to do with that person. And we can't do that. We don't have the people to do that. You know,
Okay,
that's
so a
too
couple of
long.
different problems, yeah, that we're hearing. Okay, so I think we're finished with this chart, just to say that if law enforcement is not doing warrantless, it's really important that you have a 24/7 judicial warrant emergency detention. And it sounds like you have warrantless, that law enforcement will do it, so you're covered. You were in that green square because someone can either go through law enforcement or they can go to a judge during regular business hours. But what we're hearing is the wait time. Wait.
They call us 24 hours a day.
Oh, y'all are 24/7 too?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But the warrantless detention is, Tony and I talked about it at one time, and I talked to Judge Herman in Travis County, and that's what he told me. Why would you have a warrant detention? If it's true emergency, you want to do the warrantless detention. I mean, if it really is a crisis going on.
I'll tell you that what we hear is that there are different interpretations of crisis, right? The criteria, I don't know if you want to pull it up, Kama. For emergency detention, we all know about the harm to self or others, but there is what we call the third prong, and it is supposed to be for deterioration. And it is something we want to talk about today because it's interpreted lots of different ways. So I have a friend in Austin who, her sister has bipolar disorder. She's normally a mom, functioning well. And when she's manic, she's on the streets, using needles, engaging in all sorts of horrific behavior.
It's not on this.
Okay, dangerous behavior. But, and her experience was that law enforcement would come up and see her and she would say, I'm not going to harm myself or others, and then they would leave because of that interpretation. And then we hear, in a different community, they might look at them and say, well, you are definitely a harm to yourself. They can either interpret it under that or under this other standard. And so I think that's the reason that some people like to have the other option is if you have, how many different law enforcement agencies do you even have in, one county? You can have a chief of a police department that says, we interpret it this way. We're really conservative. We don't want to get involved in that. And I mean conservative and we don't want to get involved in the liability of it. And we don't want to pick up people for that. And you can have another one interpret it in a different way. So
we work pretty close here. Law enforcement works pretty close here. Like we have Divine Police here. Normally we have Hondo involved, Castro, Natalia. And everybody, how do I say this? We talk and we work together on how to solve some issues. But it's not up to us. That third prong that you're talking about, I will use it if they're deteriorating to the point where they can't get out of bed, they can't feed themselves, they can't function, where we think they are going to end up with renal failure, something like that, right? I will push that, but I can't do it with drugs because the hospitals won't accept that.
Exactly.
It's
I
not-
can't get on there either for the same reason.
It's not us not wanting to do it. The hospitals literally call us and said, you have no business bringing this patient here for this because it's drug use. And as much as they don't want to violate HIPAA, they will tell me, do not do this again because this person, patient X, is using drugs, so stop it. So that is why we have to back off, which is where we try to rely on MHDD, but MHDD has the same concept, how it works, because if they're high, if they have any drugs in their system, they don't want the patient either.
Yeah, we have to wait for the drug to actually get out of the system before they.
well, just so you can sort it out.
Right.
Have y'all talked about a sobering center before? We've heard of that where there's, a place where people can go to sober up.
We don't have one in this county.
We don't have that.
We don't have a place to take them for that, no, we do not.
Okay, maybe that goes on our wish list. on things that, that diversion centers. Y'all heard of the diversion centers? Y'all talked about it?
Yes. And I know there's an emergency detention for drug use. I know there's one specifically for that. And we just don't have a place to go to with that kind of emergency detention. I know it's a different type, but
They've got to be monitored closely if I don't know.
Yeah. And then what if a family comes to you though? Like what if, law enforcement says our hands are tied with the hospital interpretation, judge, I know my kid, he only uses heroin when he's manic or what, there is a drug issue, but I know that this is a mental health crisis.
if they're high at the time we make contact, I tell them, the hospital's not gonna take them, the MHDD's not gonna do an evaluation, and if you have a charge, put them in jail. That's where they end up. I have one in jail right now that I don't want him in jail, but there is no place to take him. And, that's just a fact of our situation here.
And from the LMHA, have you seen in other counties the, like some sort of crisis respite, anything like that they could?
I'm sure they do have them in the bigger counties.
Yeah, that they could work toward.
Like New Braunfels.
Or a
We
sobering
even get
center.
them, Judge Lingy and I've been working on one, he's finally getting out today, the jail should be taking him. But, we've been working on it for days. He magistrated the guy, choked out his stepdad, like literally choked him out. Have no other family besides the mom and the stepdad. And he's got major mental health issues. Jail's not the right place for him. And then he's also got a drug abuse issue. And it was really, really hard. It's taken me 3 full days to get him into a facility, and we were lucky because he has insurance. Most of the time the people we deal with don't have insurance and they're indigent. So sometimes it takes me weeks to find a place. We get to the end of the year, the closer we get to October, I can't get my people into treatment if they don't have insurance because they've run out of money, they've run out of funding. So that's a huge issue.
Okay,
And that's in San Antonio. We have nothing here. That's getting people to San Antonio.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of the goals that y'all have identified for your STEM mapping, and I wonder who's in charge of that one.
Don't say it.
Judge Kindred.
Oh, good.
Expand
I'll take up
specialized.
for him today. He's in court.
Okay, expand specialized mental health crisis response options. Okay. All right, well, that is one of your goals, and so I think that if we work around that, and you know that that's one of the long-term goals, but what can we work on right now? Do you want to go through some of the process for emergency detention?
Yes.
Okay, because you threw out a lot of different problems, and some were the waiting time, and then also that you don't have OPCs here. And that none of the judges here, OPCs here, or court-ordered mental health services.
Correct.
Okay, we will get there. So I have the plan. I have the template open, and on here is kind of all the different things that we have known counties to do. So like emergency detentions, procedures, back a slide. This with the warrant. So some counties don't use it at all, as we talked about. Some counties use it, and your judges hear emergency detention orders, and I'm understanding that's what happens here. And there are different interpretations of the word magistrate and who is allowed to hear your emergency detention applications. So is that everyone, all JP judges, the county court at law judge, your district judge, does everyone hear?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. If there is a judge available, MHCD goes to whatever judge is available at the time.
Okay, so
Even the district judge?
Correct.
Okay. And there is a thing that the judge with probate jurisdiction, which you said is you and Judge Lutz,
Right.
you can direct that. You could make an order that says only these judges hear that. You have that authority. But it sounds like this is working for you, and it may be, you know, something that we just write down and note.
Great. And then judges hear emergency detention applications 9 to 5. What is your like hours?
24/7.
24/7.
They get them when it bypasses law enforcement most of the time. Like somebody just shows up at the ER here, or somehow they get a crisis call at their office. That's normally when it goes through a JP. 90% of the time, if it's law enforcement reacting to a call, we can be on our own.
So how do you ensure the availability of that magistrate 24/7? Someone on call?
Someone's on call, yes.
Okay.
We have them on call because if there's a death,
Okay, so it's the same judge who does the death inquest?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And y'all share call, 4 of you? And are you a JP as well? Hello.
Yeah, I get calls even if I'm out of town, they send everything to me by my phone.
Yeah.
I pull over, review it, if everything's good, I sign off on it, so it's.
Yeah, we were excited when you were able to do it. I was like, yes.
That's good that y'all have that process.
It cuts down at the time.
Sure.
A lot to be able to do it.
And speaking of that, so the way the statute is written, the physicians and then a licensed mental health authority professional are allowed to send those applications for the emergency detention warrant electronically. But all others, by any other adult, say like a family member, are typically not electronic. Do they come into your office, or is it still emailed, or how is that handled?
We usually go to where they are.
You go to where they are? So the family calls you, you just go to them? Okay.
But we did change that law, and y'all know about that someone at the LMHA can request it electronically. Because we had a JP on our commission that said, I'm tired of meeting people at Wendy's at 2 a.m. And so if it's a licensed social worker, I think there's a definition, qualified mental health professional.
That works at that LMHA.
That works at the LMHA, they can send it to you electronically and you don't have to leave your home and you can sign it off that way.
Okay, great.
Not everyone's doing it yet here, but they're slowly trickling.
Okay, so is that like something to note to add is for all 4 JPs?
If they can, yes, that would be awesome.
To join, what would you call it, join the electronic system?
Paperless, yeah.
Paperless system?
Because I know when that divine case you were talking about, that was one of the issues, was trying to get a hold of the.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And procedurally, if I were to need a warrant and I could submit it electronically, is there a place where I email that, or do I need to call, figure out who the judge is on call and get that email address?
That's what we do. We try. There is a on-call list that we have, but we have been told so far that it's after 5. So during the day, we kind of just try to figure out who's available.
Okay, is there someone, a point person that
we call the cell phones directly?
Yeah.
So do you guys like it a different way?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
So did they,
Are you the point person?
does
Whoever
the
the crisis worker that was
The
assigned
crisis
to the
worker.
Yes.
Okay, and how would someone who is not a crisis worker, so a
Most
family
of the-
member?
A family member? That I don't know, because we haven't had that happen.
I've never had a family member.
We have never had a family do an ED.
So you think family members are probably calling your hotline and then the crisis worker is calling?
The crisis worker called.
Okay. Or calling the police, I would imagine.
Correct, and then the police,
And I have to laugh at them because every time they call, Judge, I hate to bother you.
every time.
You know, right?
Okay, and y'all have some mental health officers who are here, right?
Yes.
The 2 of you?
We got one right over there and I hadn't dealt with him since Monday, I think.
Not March.
No.
Okay, are y'all trained in CIT?
Yes.
Okay, is that, you feel like that's going well? And when you were saying something about you would like to have a co-responder model, I think that is another one of your goals under the SIM map, where you're saying a social worker would come out, or maybe sometimes a social worker goes out to the call.
My notes. Yes, that would be.
It's not covered under HIPAA.
Are all of the police entities allowed to do the APOW, the warrantless?
Yes. In Texas, every officer now, for the most part, are CIT officers. So everybody's been trained, everybody knows what to do.
Okay. Sometimes like different chiefs limit who
We're not doing it.
in their
No.
staff could do it, or
We-
maybe my agency.
I do not have a chief in this county that is negative about it.
Good, good.
Great.
We've gone to counties where they say the law enforcement will not do it. They're not allowed to by their chief.
We
So,
don't have it.
good, good.
Great. And so due to that, can I assume that it's available 24/7, your APOW?
Yes.
And then, if someone was to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Me?
911?
Personally?
Or to get an APOW?
They just go through dispatch.
Okay.
Whatever officer's available can help them, yes.
And what if the hospital wanted, instead of to do a warrant, to do a warrantless?
Well, that has actually happened. The hospital got a hold of me because they know who I am, unfortunately. And they had an issue. At that time, it was a different chief of police. And he did not want to get involved with doing an ED going from hospital to hospital. And the hospital had a serious problem with this patient. So they called me, I went over there and interviewed the patient, and I said, yeah, no, I'll do the ED, not a problem. So I merely did the paperwork, made contact with University Hospital San Antonio, then I had the doctor do a doc-to-doc visit, and it was easy. EMS transported, not an issue, so I have done that before.
Okay, so procedurally, on this document, if a hospital needed to contact someone for an APOW, would you like your number here? Or would you like them to call dispatch, or how?
988?
Yeah.
What method?
Their procedure right now is to call MHD.
Okay.
And if MHD has some sort of issue with it, they would call me, they want to get over me.
I actually think everybody in our clinic has your number.
It's in the bathroom.
I think it's everyone in there.
So MHCD is sort of the gatekeeper for the judges' numbers and the officer numbers.
I hope so, they're the mental health authority.
Do you find that to be true?
Probably, yeah.
Maria's like,
I have nothing to say. I just went to a class and like the local mental health authority, like I had to kind of do a chart like this and set up a plan for the sheriff's office. So I had to go through all of it, and then some other stuff that I learned from different counties, officers that went to go and talk to, the way that how an ED works over there versus our time. Like it's just better to do a warrantless here than to contact like the MCOT team, because we can't wait 5 hours. You know, like this is a crisis, he needs to go now, versus waiting all day just to get them in somewhere.
Is that procedure chart available?
My computer died.
Do you guys think that would be something beneficial to have a kind of a record of?
And it has like those books too that you had in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like I had the QR codes for the adult and the juvenile. Like I had to put that whole thing together.
Awesome.
Sad.
That sounds
You should charge
amazing.
your laptop in your office on?
Okay.
All right, so it sounds like a long wait for MCOT is,
That plug is not working.
Because
Not all
is working.
procedural.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize your laptop was plugged into it.
No,
for emergency detention.
That's fine.
Okay, you want to tell us about the problem with court ordered mental health, talk about AOT? Do we have
I need a volunteer first for when we're on a break or afterwards to send me the list of all the facilities that you guys contact to see if there's placement available.
see, I have all that. Yeah, well, I
You have all that?
I
Are you my
have all
contact?
that.
Okay.
With that class.
all my stuff's in my head and you're not getting it.
Okay.
So I'm gonna write down Mariah and I will.
Yeah, anything y'all have already done, please send us and we'll
Remove Tony and put
all do
Mariah.
Okay.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, so tell us about the problem with the county not doing the court order mental health services here. How would that help if that were being done here?
Well, it's not necessarily a county, we just don't have any resource here.
Okay, so it's not that you're not doing the order, it's that you don't have the psych hospital in county.
Right.
Okay.
So if they make it past the stage at the hospital where they're admitted, they then get transferred to a place that is out of county and then they will handle your.
Yeah, so
rest.
if I'm your brother and I take you to Medina Regional Hospital because you're having a psych episode, right? Medina Regional will then contact MHDD, and MHDD will go out there, do an assessment on you, and they will decide if you're good to go or not. They'll find a bed, and MHDD will do an emergency detention with a warrant.
Okay.
That is all that happens, sir.
And then it goes out of county.
Yes.
And the out of county might.
That could be San Angelo, that could be North Texas.
They might do order of protective custody
Nope,
again.
nope. What they do somewhere else, I cannot speak to that.
You send it there.
Yeah, we're here in this
And then
county,
just-
it's just an emergency detention warrant.
And so the next time you interact with that person is when they're back on the street and it's a new thing.
Correct.
Or they're with me
Or they're with you.
and I can get a court order from the JPs as a condition of their bond for them to have psychiatric or mental health, and we follow up on that. But if they do choose to go to treatment, like the gentleman I was talking about earlier, the jail's taking him to treatment, but we can't lock him down, right? He can walk right out. As soon as the jail leaves, they turn around and leave, the guy can walk right out.
So as a probate judge, do you do any court-ordered mental health services at all?
No.
Okay. Sorry, I had to clear that up.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing is, do y'all ever do emergency detention out of the jail?
I have done that 5 or 6 times, maybe. And that's where, prior to Sue, MHCD just refused to go out and visit with the patient. And I said, this is so bad that he's gonna kill himself or somebody else here. And I would work with San Antonio State Hospital and do an ED from the jail, request a PR bond from a JP, and go straight to SASH and with the patient. And SASH did not appreciate that. But I had a good working relationship with the admin doctor, so we would get it.
Yeah, we've heard that HHSC doesn't really appreciate, like you're saying, that direct process from the jail. But what would be the other method is just to take them to the psych hospital because they're under the jail's care? Like if someone is in a true emergency.
There was no other method because MHPD wouldn't get involved. I had to circumvent the entire system and go through SASH, which is not in Hill Country MHPD, not in their catchment area. So I went through SASH and requested their assistance, got them the documentation they requested, and we got that person admitted there.
Okay.
Now, I got a PR bond done, so he was no longer in our care once I released him to SASH.
Yeah, that's how we've heard that people do it, is like a mental health bond, but the minute they're walking out the door, then you have an emergency detention. And it has to be done sometimes. But who's doing jail medical now?
Turnkey.
So it is a third-party contract. And do you know if Turnkey would do emergency detentions, or what you would probably do if someone were like,
Ooh, you looking at me?
yeah, I just met you.
No, I've had him before.
I don't even know you like that.
Did Kirby talk to you about that? No, I don't know. I can find out.
Okay. Well, I know y'all are still working that out. Okay,
Yeah, the brand new contract, brand new.
Yeah,
okay. Well, good. That's exciting. Yeah.
we're glad to have it.
We're not calling you out, we're encouraging. All right, so we just have a few more minutes on emergency detention. We're gonna take a 5-minute break and then come back and talk about the 1622 process, bonding out, and all of that. So,
Something that we did talk about, that she reminded me of, I did talk to her supervisor, was medications, court-ordered medications.
Yep.
Turnkey will help us with that. If there is a court order and I give it to Turnkey, here's the order, they will help us get those medications administered.
I think that's a big possibility because we talked to a lot of counties that their jail medical says, no, our company does not believe in it, we just won't do it. Or there might be a judge that says, I don't believe in it, you know. So I think it's, what we've seen other counties do is tiptoe into it, you know, try it with one person. And if you get success, then try it again. You know, you don't have to announce that this is your new policy, but everybody has an agreement on a procedure, and then try it and see how it goes. And then if you move somebody out of their jail and they're doing well, your mental health officer follows up with them, you know, then it can be, I think, a huge savings of life and cost. Okay, one other thing I wanted to bring up, and we can follow up with this later, but just to plant a seed, is that Judge Cashin's interested in a mental health court. And another kind of a mental health court that I really have just been finding out about in the last year or so is earlier in the process, an assisted outpatient treatment court. And it's whatever judge has probate jurisdiction. And this is for people who have low-level, nonviolent offenses, or maybe not even an offense yet. Maybe you see it coming, they're high risk for it, but they're not doing well in complying with their medication. It sounds like you have some experience.
Yeah, at Hayes County, we just put in for a grant for one.
To get one in Hayes, yeah. So we have a collaboration in Texas that's supporting new courts that want to do it, but again, it could start really small. You could have a handful of people in that court, you could have a handful of people in your specialty court, and the main difference is the specialty court is after there's an offense. The biggest asset I see to the earlier AOT court is that you can take people who are incompetent. You can, if it's a misdemeanor and it's low level and they're incompetent, you're basically moving them over to their civil docket. You can dismiss those criminal charges or you can hold them. And there's a transfer process to move them to the civil docket and follow them. And that would be something new if you're not already doing court-ordered mental health services. But it is something that you have the jurisdiction to do, and you know, again, you can start really small. But it really just runs on the black robe effect and all the benefits of a specialty court, that you build that team, that everybody's showing up, they're supporting them, you know, it's supportive, it's
collaborative.
Yeah, it's collaborative.
But you have to have cooperation from the district attorney's office, from
Yes.
the defense, everybody to move it into an AOT.
Yes.
It's more intensive, so there is a staffing aspect about that. You know, I guess with the folks that we're going to get on it, if it comes through, we're going to go see them 3 times a week. Because we know, I've seen them go in the hospital 8 times, for example.
And there are some national federal grants that are giving out large sums of money to start these programs because it's an earlier intervention, right? You might be catching somebody and getting them on their medication before they're getting further and further into our criminal justice system. So it's just another idea out there of something that we could do and we can follow up with. And Hayes, yeah, it's Hayes County, Judge Brown.
Judge Brown.
Yeah, she's going to do both. So she's a county court at law judge, and she is going to do, she has already started a specialty criminal court and had a few graduations, and it's going well. And then she's starting this AOT court that's earlier. And so then she has jurisdiction for both, and she could move them, you know, if this is full, and it's somebody that's, you know, the criminal trespass, very low level, not a scary person, you can move them into this other court and try it this way. And I do think it's interesting that they could be incompetent because, you know, when we're going to talk about competency restoration after lunch, but if somebody is a misdemeanant, they're never going to make it through the 2-year wait list. So what are we doing, right? That's the big thing. What are we doing? Putting them in jail for 6 months and then you just put them right back out. So it is, I think, an interesting option for people that are incompetent, is to put them into this monitored, intensive, you get more treatment from, your partnership with the LMHA, and you might have to bring in some funding for that, but it is another option. Okay, anything else about emergency detention before we take a break?